They awoke in unfamiliar hotel rooms, memories hazy, surroundings pristine yet eerie. 18 strangers, yet somehow connected by their odd situation and lack of memories, explored the empty halls until Tsurugi Kinjo, the ultimate police officer, gathered them. With Byakuya Togami, the ultimate affluent progeny, by his side, they forced open the front doors, only to find a silent city, Shirokuro Island. The streets were spotless, but lifeless, and then the loudspeakers came alive. On a stage in the park stood Kurokuma and Shirokuma, two twisted mascots. Their message: the city was sealed. They were all classmates. Weapons had been scattered, and the only way to survive was to kill. No escape, no answers, just silence. Tsurugi took command, promising no deaths under his watch. Introductions followed, uneasy and tense. Once finished, the group splintered, some searching for meaning, others simply trying to breathe. But one thing was clear: they weren't just trapped in a city, they were trapped in a killing game. In District 1, the group explored key locations: labs, a kitchen, a club, and sewers discovered by Akane Owari. The first motive was revealed: a hidden survivor's perk granting secret information, but silence was mandatory. Byakuya found a chess rook and kept it to himself. Tsurugi Kinjo tried to confiscate weapons, but Kurokuma retaliated by flooding the island with more. A second motive followed: smoke bombs would obscure vision and isolate them. As panic grew, Akane and Leon Kuwata attempted a mock fight to trigger a murder, but failed. Tensions peaked. Kade even knocked Byakuya unconscious as she tried and failed to kill him. When the final timer ended with no deaths, everyone's health points dropped to 15. Soon after, Sakura Ogami was found dead in District 0, an adjacent train station. The trial was rushed due to limited investigation time. Byakuya led the trial, narrowing suspects to Kinji, Takumi, Yasuhiro, Ryota, and Kaede. Yasuhiro Hagakure was exposed after his alibi crumbled. He confessed, revealing Takumi Hichirihara as his accomplice. His execution: he was crushed beneath a giant crystal ball. The killing game had officially begun.
Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts. There you go again, calling out of sins, the only one with clean hands. Preaching to the choir, holier than thou, this wolf in sheep's clothing. A messenger of God, heretic at heart, it's never you that's guilty. Self-righteous and above anything at all, appointed judge and jury. So I wanna know, tell me how I fallen from grace. Show me how to wash it away. I know what you are underneath, so keep your secrets safe, my child. In a light while you hide your demons. Pray for me, pray for me. Drown in your stones from a glass house broken. Pray for me, pray for me. You're on fire, you're on fire. Your day's coming.
Following the deaths of Sakura and Yasuhiro, Tsurugi Kinjo declared himself leader, excluding Kaede, Shobai, Akane, and Takumi as threats. Dissenters would be treated as criminals. But as District 2 opened, attention shifted to new areas, including student labs and the Color Cafe, run by an AI named Swatch, who accepted weapons as currency. Tensions escalated. Miu Iruma interrupted Kinjo's control with a proposal. She'd build a rescue transmitter, but only if leadership was decided democratically. In a surprise win, Byakuya Togami became the group's leader after being elected against his will, thanks to Leon Kuwata's interjection. Then came a new motive: arcade machines. Win tickets, trade them for morally grey prizes, like secrets, weapons, or trial advantages. Shobai claimed the first reward. Tsurugi played Tetris. Kinji, playing Texas Hold'em with Hiyoko and Akane, but lost as Hiyoko won. Meanwhile, Akane, gripped by paranoia, held Tsurugi at gunpoint, though she was unable to pull the trigger. Kurokuma, frustrated, triggered a sudden death game of hide-and-seek. Two were found: Rantaro Amami and Kaide Akamatsu, both executed. District 3 opened under morning. Inside a warehouse, students were gassed, infected with Radical 6, a deadly, mind-altering virus with 75% chance of death. Only 12 could be cured. 2 had to die. Panic spread. Kurokuma worsened things by distributing dorm-exclusive secret books revealing each other's dark truths. Byakuya collapsed, Radical 6 clearly affecting him. A terminal in the warehouse revealed the island's genocide was orchestrated by someone called the Controller. With time running out, Kurokuma gave the students 9 minutes to kill, or let the weakest 4 die. Miu Iruma's body was discovered just in time. At the trial, Monika Toa was exposed as the killer due to Shobai Hashimoto witnessing the murder. Seiko would confirm this, dooming Monika's case. Her secret: she had been manipulating the group from the beginning. Her execution was swift, but after her death, Shirokuma revealed that Miu, despite her promise of building a radio rescue device, had secretly planned to betray them all. With the trial over, the cure was distributed. The fog lifted. Then came one last blow. Tsurugi exposed Takumi Hijirihara's true talent, the ultimate hitman. Before chaos could erupt, Shirokuma announced that they would take a break from the killing game and activated the train. Destination: District 6. The students awoke in a strange trial room and ascended into a surreal building covered in strawberry and grape wallpaper. Awaiting them were Kurokuma and Shirokuma, introducing a new game: escape rooms. In teams of 3, students raced through challenges, unaware that their rankings would secretly assign roles: crown, eye, skull, or clover. After the rooms, the ethical dilemma began. 5 would be nominated in a preliminary vote. Then a second vote would determine who among them would die. Each card had unique consequences. Anyone could kill to swap cards before the timer ran out. Clover was the basic powerless role. Skull had to be voted out to survive at the expense of 3 others, or else they would die. I knew the identity of the crown, who, if voted out, would trigger the death of all 5 nominated players from round 1. Still sick from Radical 6, Tsurugi Kinjo begged Seiko for help. She, fearful, gave him poison disguised as medicine. Before its effect surfaced, Takumi Hijirihara killed Seiko, stealing her card. She died quietly. No trial was held, as there was no killing game in place. The group mourned. Her death devastated Byakuya Togami. He and Seiko had grown close. Now she was gone. In the ethical dilemma, Yui Samidare broke the rules by revealing she held the survivor's perk. Everyone voted for Yui Samidare. It doomed her and Takumi, whose skull card guaranteed death. They died in a brutal death match. Yui fell first to Takumi, and then he drowned. In his rage, Byakuya brutalized Takumi's corpse, but it brought no peace. Seiko was still gone. They returned to Shirokuro Island. The city was ravaged, blood and ruins everywhere. Ryota found a terminal, signs someone still controlled the game. But Shirokuma, now erratic and aggressive, opened District 4. Inside Rantaro Amami's lab, they found his journal, evidence of his own experiences. Soon after, a hijacked Kurokuma, controlled by an unknown force, warned them. Shirokuma had been compromised. He helped them unlock District 5, which led to an abandoned school. There was still no exit. Amid the chaos, Akane proposed a funeral. Kinji, Byakuya, and Akane gathered quietly to remember the dead. But Shirokuma interrupted, angry and paranoid. The next motive began. Randomized portals would be the only way to move through the districts, one of which might reveal an escape route. Byakuya, weighed down by grief, questioned his role as leader. Kinjo, Leon, and Ryota assured him he was still their friend, their rook. He remembered what his father once told him. The rook protects the king, sacrificing itself if it must. Elsewhere, Kinji discovered a massacre in the hospital, bodies everywhere. He told no one. Later, Hyoko found Kinji's body by the school gates. He was gone. Tsurugi called everyone back. Emotions ran high. Then came the breaking point. Tsurugi gave a speech.
I've led you all down again and again,
He said.
but now I know how to end this.
Then, he raised a gun and shot himself. Two more friends, lost. Then the trial began. It was a double murder, Kinji Uehara and somehow Tsurugi Kinjo. The autopsy revealed Tsurugi had been drugged, driven mad by something in his bloodstream. The trial for Kinji narrowed down suspects, Tsurugi and Shobai. Amidst Byakuya's objections that claimed Shobai was the killer, they voted Tsurugi. They were wrong. This followed up on Tsurugi's murder, where they were even more clueless and once more resulted in a failed verdict. Shobai, as blackened, chose Byakuya and Leon to die. Ryota lost it. Iroha wept. Byakuya accepted it. But then, Kurokuma intervened. He freed them. They ran. On the train tracks, they found a terminal with the answer, code shutdown. They spoke the words. Shirokuma exploded, and darkness took everything. Following the destruction of Shirokuma and the shutdown command, the survivors awoke in a collapsing debug room. Memories scrambled, confusion thick. A new voice emerged. The controller. Though the game had ended, he demanded one final test. The ultimate experiment. The simulation rebooted. The students' memories returned in flashes. Enough to remember each other. Enough to feel the weight of what they'd endured. Soon, they were summoned to District 5. The school had opened. Inside, they uncovered a devastating truth. One of them was a lie. The traitor was an AI, built to resemble a participant, designed by the controller in his own likeness. Debate narrowed the suspects, Shobai, Monica, and Byakuya. Eventually, they cast their votes. The lights dimmed. The truth was revealed. Byakuya Togami had never been real. The controller, revealed to be the real Byakuya Togami, the ultimate affluent progenitor, had engineered the entire simulation. The goal? Talent extraction and injection. A test to create perfect ultimates from talentless volunteers. His AI double, the Rook, had been his control variable. but rebellion stirred. Masaru Daimon, Kotoko Utsugi, and Nagisa Shingetsu, leaders of the reformed Neo-Future Foundation, entered the simulation. They accused the controller of crossing lines, erasing memories, falsifying consent, weaponizing ethics. He defended his plan. With the world in chaos, society needed heroes, even artificial ones. Nagisa, now an admin, shut the experiment down. With fog closing in, the Byakuya AI, who had grown into a true friend, bid the group farewell. Holding his rook, he urged them to live, then fell with a smile as the simulation faded. But his legacy remained. He had fulfilled his role. The rook had fallen. The game was over. The survivors awoke again, memoryless, near a school's fountain beneath a cherry blossom tree. Masaru would introduce himself again as the leader of the Neo-Future Foundation and a self-proclaimed hero. He and his AI Kurokuma explained that they were missing memories and had to recover fragments across the island to recover them. The students would explore the whole island, picking up memory fragments all over. With each one, their names and talents returned, and with the help of Kotoko Utsugi and Nagisa Shingetsu, they eventually recovered them all, until only one piece remained. At last, in a digital vault, the truth re-emerged. The last fragment contained the memories of the 18th participant, Byakuya. To them, he was not just a program, but their leader, their friend. Created to simulate leadership, he had grown into something real. Then they faced their final challenge. Back at the trial area, the controller returned one last time, offering them a choice. Renounce your talent. Forget the simulation. Be compensated and silenced, or accept your talent. Take the call to action. Join the Tagami conglomerate and use your gift to stop despair. The room divided. Kaede, Hyoko, and Akane chose peace. The rest chose purpose. Kinji embraced his new identity as the ultimate bishop, in memory of the fallen friend who had guided them. As they exited the simulation, Seiko saw it, a sunflower, Byakuya's parting gift. He had fulfilled his role. The rook protected the king, and in the end, he was real enough to be missed.
Wherever there is a corpse, the vultures will gather.
20 individuals awoke inside the Neo-World program. Their memories altered, identities shifted. Before them stood a grand academy, and atop a statue, Monocrow.
The crowiest crow to ever crow.
He declared himself the headmaster. The doors opened, and the students entered the grand hall, where they were divided into 4 color-coded teams. Green team, Satoshi Mochida, Hatsune Miku, Yuri Kagarin, Kirumi Tojo, Sonosuke Izayoi. Blue team, Kokoro Mitsumi, Mikako Kurokawa, Katsu Nagai, Kyoko Kirigiri, Ryoji Mochizuki. Red Team: Makoto Yuki, Herschel Layton, Yuki Maeda, Mitsunari Koga, Tenko Chabashira. Yellow Team: Mahiru Koizumi, Trucy Wright, Kazuichi Soda, Himiko Yumeno, Shinji Kasai. Amid feasting and confusion, a burst of smoke revealed Mikado Sanoji, co-headmaster and theatrical magician. He and Monochrome explained the rules. This academy trained heroes, but to simulate villainy, students would have to murder each other. Each team had a unique weapon in their dorms and rules to follow. Monochrome's rules were simple. During deadly life, the Grand Hall and Forest Gates were off limits. Crossing into another team's HQ was forbidden. Murder was allowed in the HQ as long as rules weren't broken. Teammates could kill each other as long as the killer had no accomplices from their own team. Loyalty was optional. Betrayal expected. Moreover, for them to leave the simulation, they had to pass one of the graduation codes, the color code. One member from each team must die. Fails if any team is wiped or fewer than 4 remain. The victory code. If one team holds a majority of survivors, they graduate, requires 4 plus survivors. The sinner's code. If a team is mostly blackened, with at least 1/3 spotless, they may execute the spotless. Or the saint's code. If mostly spotless, with at least 1/3 blackened, they may execute the blackened. If no code applies, option 5 is triggered. Monochrome refuses to say what that means. Mikado led the 20 participants beyond the stone walls, into the woods, the forest of lost souls. It was here, they explained, where weapons could be found, tools for protection, or murder. Moreover, they could also get his pumpkin juice he would provide outside of his shack. Then came the first motive. Each team must kill one of their own. Refuse, and Monochrome would choose someone to execute. If a team killed 2, they could grant amnesty to another. Accomplices from the same team were prohibited. The murders began. Green Team fell first. Yuri Kagarin, misandrist and obsessed with the women of his team, was killed. Red Team hesitated, and Monochrome executed Herschel Layton at random. He didn't flinch or make a sound as he burned. Blue Team broke. Katsu Nagai killed Ryoji Mochizuki in a mutual suicide pact, witnessed by Kyoko. Kazuichi Soda publicly shot Trucy Wright. Monochrome, unimpressed, revived her as the kill had left too many witnesses, though this sparked change on Trucy. Lastly, the body of Shinji Kazai would be found on the patio. With all murders complete, the trial began. Sonosuke was voted guilty for Yuri's death. Katsu broke the rules, as he had worked with Ryoji on an assisted suicide. As a result, Ryoji was revived, and Katsu retained blackened status. Himiko Yumeno would be voted for the murder of Shinji Kasai. However, no executions followed. Instead, Monochrome introduced the death row, a subterranean prison. Blackens would be jailed, not executed. Inmates couldn't kill, conspire, or carry weapons. After the next trial, the group would vote to replace them or send someone new. Survive 2 trials in death row, and the execution begins. One that is difficult, but survivable. The rules set, the students were dismissed. The next day began with unease. Some visited the death row inmates, Sonosuke, Katsu, and Himiko. Each conversation strained by grief and survival. Then came discovery. Secret rooms within the HQs. Those in the green and yellow dorms had unlocked. The green team uncovered a terminal detailing the Kisaragi tragedy, a prelude to the world's greatest catastrophe. The yellow team found a log from Mikado Sanoji, venting frustrations with the Neo-Future Foundation's secrecy about his hero project. Monochrome gathered everyone for the new motive, a soccer tournament. The red team won, gaining double health. Green placed second. Yellow lost 25% health, and blue lost 50%, making them susceptible to death. Amid the tournament's aftermath, Mikako Kurokawa began exorcism rituals on Yuki Maeda, sensing something unnatural in him. Meanwhile, Trucy Wright and Mitsunari Koga performed a hopeful stage show, briefly lifting spirits, but it didn't last. Kazuichi Soda, enraged by Shinji's earlier death, confronted Katsu Nagai. He drew a gun, accidentally firing and killing Katsu in front of witnesses. Monochrome reacted immediately. He would revive Katsu and send Kazuichi to death row, taking Katsu's place. Then, another scream. Mahiru discovered Kokoro Mitsume's corpse in the Red Dawn. At trial, Mikako Kurokawa was revealed as the killer. This was a blue-on-blue violence case. The group then faced a choice: who to replace on death row, Himiko Yumeno, Kazuichi Soda, or Sonosuke Izayoi. They spared Sonosuke, replacing him with Mikako, meaning that Himiko and Kazuichi would participate in an execution. Kazuichi and Himiko faced a final gamble. 2 portals. One led to prison, one to death. Himiko chose right. Kazuichi chose left. Only Himiko returned, chilling in her cell. Kazuichi was never seen again. The morning after the trial was heavy with unease. Monochrome shared the mascot symbols of each team: Kurokuma, Shirokuma, Monokuma, and Usami, each representing a different philosophy. Soon after, the students were called to the Grand Hall. Yuki Maeda greeted his best friend Ryoji Mochizuki with awkward cheer, calling him Big Brother, unaware of the grim news to come. A new rule was announced. Any blackened who killed twice would be executed, no matter the vote. Then came a shocking reveal. Kokoro Mitsume, alive and older, introduced herself as Kokoro Kurokawa, the true co-headmaster and mother of Mikako Kurokawa. She unveiled the Wanderer motive. One participant would receive a list of 3 targets. If they killed them within 3 days, there'd be no trial, and death row inmates would be executed. But if they failed, they'd vanish into the forest of lost souls. No one could kill anyone else, just the Wanderer, and he was Ryoji Mochizuki. This punishment, Kokoro explained, was to correct mistakes from the first motive, as Ryoji had been revived by breaking the rules of the game, thus skipping blue team's killing frenzy, while the red team uncovered another terminal, revealing Kokoro's frustration with Mikado's childish optimism. Ryoji wandered the halls, refusing to kill and enjoying the few time he had. He spent his days with Yuki and the others, talking, laughing, and remembering. But as the final day arrived, Yuki shattered. Unable to let Ryoji die alone in the forest, he granted his friend's final wish. Sonosuke Izayoi, witnessing the act, fought Yuki, but was severely injured. He tried to run and tell the others, but succumbed to his wounds in front of them. The trial was gut-wrenching. Yuki confessed to both killings, crushed by guilt. Mikako Kurokawa insisted he was possessed by Utsuro, but there was no entity to blame, just Yuki. He was voted out, broken. Then came the second death row salvation. Between Mikako Kurokawa and Himiko Yumeno, the group nearly tied, until Trucy abstained. Himiko was spared. Mikako was sent into the forest with one task: return. She nearly made it amidst the terrors within. But from above, a parasite struck, silent and swift. Mikako was devoured. The students waited by the gate for hours, but she never came back. By nightfall, Mikako Kurokawa was gone, and another piece of them went with her. The group awoke early, still raw from recent deaths. Monochrome served pumpkin juice, Mikado's ill-received culinary experiment. Mikado, dragging a silent Yuki Maeda from death row, led everyone to the newly unlocked second-floor library. There, they found Herschel Layton, alive. His execution had been a ruse, as Monochrome couldn't find him. He had accessed the library early and been trapped, surviving off dwindling supplies while solving its puzzles alone. With the group's help, the secret library was opened. Monochrome, Mikado, and Kokoro were temporarily suspended. Within, the group uncovered the truth. Project Gigas, a simulation built to create the perfect hero that fed on participants' traits and experiences. To protect its design, each student had been implanted with false identities and talents. Some kidnapped at the orders of Kokoro, in collaboration with Arasaka and its head, Van der Sar. The most tragic case, Hatsune Miku, whose true identity, Victoria Cecilia, had been erased. Additionally, Kyoko Kirigiri's file was missing, revealing her as a possible non-participant. It also revealed that Trucy and Layton had willingly let themselves be kidnapped, as Trucy's boyfriend Yuri Kagarin had been kidnapped, and they wanted to rescue him. They also learned those who die in the simulation also die in real life, their minds consumed by the Gigas system. A visual confirmation came later when Mitsunari Tenko discovered a grotesque husk, all that remained of Kazuichi Soda. That night, an emergency struck. The pumpkin juice had been poisoned. 5 students, Kurumi, Kyoko, Tenko, Trucy, and Himiko, were quarantined with Yuki Maeda, who was still in his death row cell. The 2 buildings were locked down, connected only by a gap for drones between the bridges. A new motive followed. Each side had to sacrifice one of their own to extract marrow and spinal fluid for a cure. A fatal act. If no one complied, the sickest would die. The reward, a favor from Monochrome. Makoto Yuki, determined to protect the healthy group, led a blockade, wanting the sick to die for the sake of the healthy. But a drone bypassed them and exploded near Kyoko Kirigiri, killing her instantly. Himiko witnessed it. Mitsunari, unaware, devised a bold plan, used the drones to cross. Miku and Mahiru succeeded, but were caught as Mitsunari crossed and fell. Monochrome, heartbroken and furious, ordered an execution. Miku and Mahiru were to fight. Miku refused, choosing to die rather than kill her best friend. Her final words,
Please remember me as Victoria Cecilia.
Mahiru in tears dealt the blow. With the cure administered, Kyoko's death was investigated. Monochrome mourned her silently, something unusual in the often stoic crow. The trial revealed Satoshi Mochida as the culprit. He confessed before the vote, guilt-ridden over his actions. During the 3rd death row salvation, the group spared Yuki Maeda, acknowledging his emotional breakdown. Satoshi took his place. Afterward, the graduation codes were shown once more. Tensions between Kokoro and Mikado exploded. Mikado, horrified by the extent of Kokoro's actions in the kidnappings, sought reform. In response, Kokoro stripped him of his co-headmaster title, leaving him a passive observer. Monochrome was reinstated in his stead, and in the shadows, the entity known as Gigas stirred. The participants awoke to a blood-red sky and warped surroundings. Monochrome, now official co-headmaster, declared his authority absolute. The new motive, open house season, allowed access to all dorms, dissolving team boundaries. Exploring deeper, 4 participants discovered the debug room in the Forest of Lost Souls. A terminal inside revealed everyone's true traits and identities, fabrications crafted by the simulation. Elsewhere, Tsurugi Wright found Monocro tending flowers at Kyoka's grave. It was revealed Kyoko Kirigiri was actually Kyoka, an artificial intelligence designed as a control subject, Monocro's sister in data. Despite efforts by Kokoro and Mikado to erase her memory from him, Monocro's system clung to her. As for Monocro, he was revealed to be the Guardian AI, an observer to the simulation. The group mourned together. Monocro confessed Mikado believed the simulation was harmless, unaware Gigas consumed lives for real. Later, Monocro led them to the tower containing Gigas, locked between 2 energy disks. There, he unveiled the final motive, the final bet. Each student had to vote in secret on who they thought would be the victim and culprit of the next murder. Each vote inflicted -10 health points on its recipient. Guessed right? You gained double voting power. No sharing allowed. Soon after, Himiko Yumeno built a bomb and gave it to Mitsunari Koga, who threw it into Satoshi Mochida's cell and closed it, killing him. A double blackened trial followed, as there was too much involvement from the accomplice. Furthermore, due to Satoshi killing on the past trial, his favor from Monocro was to tie the accomplices and killers together to the same fate. So as long as you got one of them, they would both be executed no matter what. At the trial, Kirumi Tojo's life was at stake if they failed to identify the culprit. The group narrowly voted Himiko as the killer and Mitsunari as the accomplice. Himiko revealed her true goal. Her real talent was the ultimate apprentice, seeking to learn from Tsurugi and kill her, thus usurping her as ultimate magician. Their execution? A brutal electrified football gauntlet. Mitsunari died in 3 minutes. Himiko survived nearly 5. In the aftermath, most mourned Mitsunari, despite his flaws. Only Tsurugi and Makoto grieved for Himiko, mostly pitiful as to what she became for her ambition. Above them, the sky remained red, and Gigas pulsed silently. The survivors returned to the trial room for the graduation ceremony, testing each of the 4 codes: color, victory, sinners, and saints, only to find none of them could be activated, as Mitsunari's plan to doom Himiko had actively backfired on them, since he became a blackened himself. The parameters weren't met: no team balance, too few blackened, and key sacrifices refused. Suddenly, Mikado Sanoji hijacked the simulation, promoting himself to administrator. He would confront Kokoro and kick her out of the simulation, leaving the participants alone. With no path forward, Monocro was conflicted. Should he let the students go, Gigas would be destroyed, and thus what little remained of Kyoka. In a fit of desperation and grief, the Guardian AI chose to stand for Gigas and continue the game, thus activating Option 5, the Killing Code. This code released Gigas, the chaotic entity they'd long feared. Reality began collapsing as Gigas spread. The participants were herded into the stadium for one final challenge. A vote-based elimination repeated until only 3 survivors remained. First vote, Makoto Yuki refused to comply and insulted Monocro. He was immediately executed, dying standing despite being impaled. On the second vote, Yuki Maeda was eliminated, walking into a mysterious portal. For the third vote, Katsu Nagai was voted out and blown up. For the fourth vote, Mahiru Koizumi was executed as punishment for skipping the previous trial. During the fifth vote, Herschel Layton offered himself, but used a dart gun to disable Monocro and open the emergency exit gate. They all ran across the academy and headed towards the trial area, where the exit remained. Tsurugi Wright, Tenko Chabashira, and Kurumi Tojo escaped the simulation. Herschel was trapped by Monocro, but after an emotional debate, Monocro let him go. Left alone, and with Gigas demanding one last sacrifice, Monocro offered himself, hoping to reunite with his sister figure, Kyoka, within the void. As he was consumed, the simulation finally collapsed, its story sealed, and its survivors free. Upon awakening, Mikado Sanoji reported the incident, blaming Kokoro Mitsumi for corrupting the simulation and causing mass deaths. The Neo Future Foundation, seeking to preserve its reputation, swiftly fired Kokoro and handed her over to Towa City authorities, where she was arrested for the deaths of the victims. Tenko Chabashira, Kurumi Tojo, Tsurugi Wright, and Herschel Layton awoke hours later. Mikado, now distanced from the Neo Future Foundation, retained control of the Gigas data and sought new funding, turning to the Tagami conglomerate, where he was received by Kinji Uehara, the ultimate bishop, now an advisor to the controller, Byakuya Tagami. Despite the tragedy, public outrage was limited due to the victims' obscure backgrounds. Only the families of Victoria Cecilia, Satoshi Moshida, Shinji Kasai, and Yuri Gagarin protested. Tenko and Kurumi visited Yuka Mochida, Satoshi's sister, to explain her brother's death. Layton returned Tsurugi safely home, reuniting with his father, Phoenix Wright, and later attended her late boyfriend, Yuri Gagarin's funeral alongside Layton. The event fractured relations between Neo Future Foundation and Arasaka, with the Foundation cutting ties and terminating all Arasaka employees involved. Isaac Kleiner, a senior Arasaka official, sought to repair relations. Eventually, he invited Neo Future Foundation representatives to Arasaka headquarters in the Netherlands to begin reconciliation efforts. It was a Sunday morning in Amsterdam. The skies were untroubled, blue and wide. Children played, tourists laughed, and the clock ticked forward like any other day. Arriving the night before, Yukio Aoki and Futaba Sakura had flown in from overseas, operatives of the Neo Future Foundation, tasked with restoring fragile relations with the mighty and controversial Arasaka Corporation. Their mission was one of diplomacy, calm tensions, open lines of trust, and retrieve crucial data regarding what had happened on the Gigas experiment. They prepared to visit Arasaka HQ the following morning. Today, however, was Sunday. Arasaka was closed except for two key staff. Dr. Isaac Kleiner, preparing for a quiet trip to visit family, and Kato van der Sar, left to keep the facility running in his absence. The mission could wait. The day, it seemed, was theirs. The streets of Amsterdam felt alive. Yukio and Futaba took the day to explore, and so did others. Strangers, all seemingly unconnected, began to cross paths. David Chen, an ultimate from Hope's Peak International, living his best life. Maya Fei, a famed spiritual medium. Hifumi Yamada, a celebrated mangaka preparing for a convention. Wolfgang Akire, an attorney working for the prestigious Akire law firm. Are Nageshi, a US champion of bowling. Even Komaru Neiki and Toko Fukawa, the heroes of Towa City, had arrived, scheduled to be honored at a ceremony the following week in the Arasaka Tower. They were just out for a stroll, unaware they were standing at the edge of history. Elsewhere, Yosuke Hanamura was frantically retracing his steps. He'd lost his wallet. Yukio helped him find it. Jenny Sinclair, actress and brand model, met Wolfgang Akire after his failed attempt to leap a canal. Giorno Giovanna, an Italian delinquent with mafia rumors in his wake, wandered with Dutch Senator Kyondo Ishida, assigned as Giorno's probationary escort, keeping a close watch on the teen. At the station, Yukio verified Dr. Kleiner's train, 12 p.m., no delays. Futaba talked with David and Maya at the shop. Tengen Uzui's noodle shop fed the street crowds. Angie Yonaga's shop showed her effigies. Mondo Owada fixed cars. Lance Bjorn hammered away at his forge. Michi Ono lingered with Sato Nazutame, her old friend and mentor. Ren Amamiya spent time with Yosuke. Emma Hardy prepared her street magic show. Power screamed about cosplay and got in character for the convention. A rogue paparazzi clicked his way through alleys, catching Jenny and David in a compromising light. At 12:25 p.m., 5 minutes before departure, a siren cut the sky in two. An emergency alert system cut through the noise of the city. A nuclear device, its origin unknown, was en route to Amsterdam. Impact radius expected to be 5 miles. Detonation time, minutes. Panic gripped the streets. The Arasaka vault was announced as the safest shelter. A line formed, screams echoed, and at the center, Kato van der Sar took command. With brutal logic, van der Sar sorted the crowd by status, nationality, and circumstance. Neo-Future Foundation agents, celebrities, and political officials, Yukio, Futaba, Kyondo, Jenny, David, Maya, Toko, Komaru, and even Emma Hardy, praised for her local charm, were let inside. Dutch citizens and guests of importance, Wolfgang, Michi, Power, were prioritized. Finally, those already affiliated or simply loud enough, Giorno, Are, and even Yosuke, were ushered in. Others, less fortunate, Ren, Mondo, Chihiro, Lance, Angie, and Tengen, were redirected to the 1 p.m. evacuation train, departing in just minutes. Nicole ran in a panic. Sato Nazutame and the mysterious paparazzi vanished. Inside the bunker, things were no calmer. Waiting within the shelter already was someone unexpected, Kokichi Oma. No one knew how he'd slipped in, but Kato, deciding there were bigger problems, allowed him to stay. IDs were printed, assignments made, and the group rode the elevator into the heart of the Arasaka bunker. The lobby, the topmost floor, still considered safe. And then, impact. A mid-air nuclear blast consumed Amsterdam. The sky turned white. A shockwave tore through the world. And deep in the bunker, the group fell unconscious as pressure breached the vault seal. The real world had finally arrived. And it was far crueler than any simulation. survivors of the Amsterdam blast awoke scattered across floor 7, the school district of the Arasaka bunker. The air was thinning, and as consciousness returned, panic crept in. Are Nageshi's scream shattered the silence, but instead of danger, they found nefarious, a towering military-grade AI robot built to destroy rogue Monokumas with absolute precision. Kato van der Sar introduced Nefarious as Arasaka's crown jewel of security tech. The robot had rescued them after the vault breach, relocating them safely. But there was a problem. No one had access to the elevators, and the bunker's ventilation was sealed shut due to radiation fallout. Their only hope was a crackling emergency radio. A voice answered. A UN rescuer the group dubbed Radio Guy. His message was grim. Amsterdam was gone, reduced to rubble by a 115 kiloton mid-air nuclear strike. The Arasaka building stood tall, though unstable. They were alive, but without the means to leave. Their search led them to the gymnasium, where they discovered Charm, a forgotten sentient plush, artificial intelligence. Shorm couldn't open the systems, but Kato remembered that each floor had a mainframe terminal that might. As Kato didn't have enough access power, Futaba Sakura, a hacker by trade and white hat by principle, offered a risky solution. Inject an AI into the system to help them bypass security. Nefarious objected, but the group agreed. Senyokuma, an old AI Futaba had cloned who had once rescued her, was uploaded into the terminal. The system booted, and AI Senyokuma had awakened. Confused and wary, Kuma accepted Futaba's explanation, although failing to recognize Yukio Aoki and Kokichi Oma, people that had met him as well in a different simulation. He accessed the system and relayed the following. He had control of the elevators and ventilation system, but each floor had a maximum capacity during emergencies, and the next floor only supported 18 people. There were 19 people in total. Someone would have to stay behind. Worse news. Opening the ventilation would kill them all. Radiation from the surface fallout had made the air above toxic. Each floor had isolated air, and their timer was ticking. Kuma, however, offered another solution, the K-1B0 experiment, an ongoing plan to build a second Nefarious-style unit, one more advanced and simpler to replicate. If they helped him reconstruct the bot and put his artificial intelligence on the new body, he could potentially escape through the roof and fly everyone to safety, one at a time. But the pieces were scattered across the floors. Searching for these components, the survivors came across terminals from the Arasaka archive. Logs from the 82nd class of Hope's Peak were found. Students once involved in the tragedy across the seas. Some names were clear: Akemi Warugaki, Fumiko Gin, Kiyoshiaki, Shakro, Techero Vega. But the final log?
Access denied.
Not even Van der Sar could unlock it. Meanwhile, the air began to thin. Hypoxia crept in. Paranoia and desperation followed. Power attacked Kokichi Oma. Hifumi Yamada assaulted David Chiem. Wolfgang Akira nearly killed Giorno Giovanna, leaving him barely breathing. And then, Hifumi went missing. He had simply gone to the bathroom. But the lock jammed, trapping him inside, with the others unaware of his situation, as they were distracted when another body was found. Michi Ono, whose skeleton had been found in a walk-in freezer turned oven. With the death resolved, they went back to AI Senor Kuma, but he was confused. By his calculations, one person should have already been eliminated. That meant someone was alive on the next floor, and the population count was still one too high. Shaum suggested a vote, a trial, find who killed Michiono, and leave them behind. Yukio Aoki resisted the idea, warning against arbitrary judgment. But Kuma insisted. They couldn't move on unless the numbers were balanced. With no other options and oxygen running out, the survivors ascended to the cellar floor, just below the rooftop. Inside, a giant clock, a locked stairwell, and a trial chamber Shaum helped prepare. The group debated. Suspicion fell on Wolfgang Akir. Just as the vote was set to begin, Kuma interrupted. There would be no vote. Nefarious had discovered the truth. Hifumi Yamada was dead, suffocated in the bathroom on floor 7 as the oxygen had run out and he had been stuck, his fingernails bloodied from trying to escape. With the death of Hifumi Yamada confirmed, the group descended to floor 6, the prison district of the Arasaka bunker. A bleak floor marked by violet tiles, rusted iron gates, and looming statues. Darkness clung to the walls. There was little comfort to be found here. At its center, a mainframe blinked. Senor Kuma reconnected. The floor, once used for housing Arasaka's most dangerous inmates, held one in solitary confinement, a man known only as Arthur. Their mission remained: build Kuma's robotic body. The armor was here, but they still needed a head, auxiliary flight parts, a power source, and time was running out. To reach those parts faster, he offered to bypass floor 5, but that came with a cost. The next floor's capacity was now only 16. With 18 survivors, 2 would have to die. Worse still, air was running out again. Shaum, feeling useless, proposed a risky plan. Help charge the battery for Kuma's body using the survivor's own body electricity. They could choose a low shock, minimal pain, with minimal gain. A medium shock, with risk of burns and side effects. Or a high shock, risk of permanent damage, 50% chance of side effect. The survivors scattered to find the missing armor piece and any tools that might help. Yukio would find a piece of a key, broken. In the interrogation chamber, they found 2 key things: a working radio and a log referencing the Centauri project. A scientific effort that followed the infamous Alpha and Beta Centauri simulations, focused on talent injection as a result from participating in simulations. From the radio came grim updates via radio guy. The nuclear weapon had been stolen from a Pakistani arsenal. The explosion had been intended for the Arasaka tower, but detonation occurred mid-air and had hit elsewhere. Structural damage was extensive, but survivable. The building still stood. Elsewhere, Kato and Nefarious discovered logs about the mysterious prisoner in solitary confinement. Yukio Aoki had managed to find the second piece of the key, as well as the armor piece for Kuma's body. With Shaum's help, the key was reforged, and the solitary confinement cell door opened. Inside they found the prisoner, Arthur Sasori, the usurper of Alpha Centauri. Kokichi and Yukio recognized him, though not at first, as they had met him when he had usurped his brother's avatar. He was frail, unkempt, his hair long and eyes hollow. It wasn't until Arthur spoke of Chester and his past with the simulations that the truth clicked. Arthur remembered them all, and he remembered Kato and Shaum, who had shown him small kindnesses during his captivity. Oxygen levels dropped. Failed shock attempts left Kyondo and Kokichi badly hurt. Power, Jenny, and Kato formed an alliance of chaos. Amid the panic, Yukio and Futaba pulled Emma Hardy aside, recruiting her for a future with the Neo Future Foundation. In a moment of desperation and delirium, someone stabbed Kokichi Oma to death with a weak but fatal flurry. The trial focused initially on Kato, Jenny, and Power for their part in the chaos. But the evidence revealed the truth. Maya Fey was the killer. The group debated mercy, but in the end, they chose justice. The survivors would go to the bottom floor, the basement, where the execution area would be held. With Nefarious and Shaum unable to carry out executions, Arthur Sasori volunteered, as he didn't want anyone else to be tainted with murder. Maya was executed quickly, with mercy. With 16 survivors, the group skipped floor 5 and ascended to floor 4. The city district, a lavish, underground urban space designed by Arasaka for their own indulgence. Before entering, Nefarious buried the bodies of Maya Fey, Kokichi Oma, Hifumi Yamada, and Michi Ono on the second floor, granting them peace. Inside the city district, the group treated Arthur's injuries at the hospital, received from Power's mayhem on the previous floor. A terminal with the password Arthur revealed the diary of Chester Sasori, Arthur's brother and creator of the null virus, a modified empty virus strain that could spread across the globe in seconds. It confirmed Chester's role as former leader of the Arasaka Six. In Kato's lab, a new broadcast from Radio Guy revealed a grim truth. The nuclear attack had been deliberate, launched by a despair insurgency cell. Rescue teams were en route, but the airspace had been shut down to prevent further threats. At the Monokuma factory, the group discovered Project Kumination, a worldwide initiative to mass-produce Monokumas as domestic helpers, and the mainframe terminal, where Senor Kuma reconnected. He requested a Monokuma head and a hat, and confirmed that this floor had abundant oxygen, allowing them time to rest. Nefarious, distrustful of Kuma, smashed his monitor, triggering a fierce division within the group. Some siding with Nefarious, others still trusting Kuma. They dispersed after, exploring the rest of the city and finding a restaurant. In it, alcohol circulated. Toko Fukawa drank her stress away and transformed into Genocide Asio, her chaotic, dangerous alter ego. An hour later, they rendezvous at Kato's lab, where Senor Kuma had gained access to Kato's monitor. There, Kuma dropped some news. First, that 1 hour of oxygen remained, so they had to hurry up. For the next floor, the maximum capacity was 13, which meant that 3 people had to stay behind. Lastly, Kuma exposed Kato van der Sar and explained that Kato had secrets she wanted to keep on the terminals. So to free her and getting revenge from Nefarious, her friend, he would give them the new password he had changed to her terminals. Duckbuster. Using it, the group discovered Kato's past, authorizing kidnappings and human experiments under Project Gygas. The revelation shattered trust. Power assaulted Kato, demanding retribution. Others like Emma, Giorno, and Yosuke urged understanding and accountability. Kato, devastated, admitted she never realized the pain she caused from behind the screen, and that her curiosity had driven her too far. To her, every victim was a number. It is difficult to empathize with people you don't meet or see. Futaba, shaken by Kuma's manipulation, quietly allied with Nefarious, suspecting the AI had darker motives, and feeling something had gone terribly wrong. This wasn't how Senor Kuma normally acted. At David's urging, the group met at the mall to share secrets. Arthur opened up about his family. Wolfgang confessed to killing Michi Ono. Meanwhile, Giorno's secret bomb project to create a new escape was dismantled by others, fearing chaos. But chaos arrived anyway. Power cornered Kato, with Giorno defending her. She demanded Kato decide who would die, or face consequences to those she held dear. Pushed to her limit, Kato snapped, blinding Yukio, attacking Seo, and accidentally killing Komaru Negi. Genocider Seo berserk butchered Kato in front of everyone with an axe. The trial wasn't about guilt, it was about morality. Was power to blame for causing chaos? Was Seo's act justifiable? Should Toko pay the price? The debate ended in a tie. To end it, Power stepped forward, removing her wig and revealing her true identity. Krina Aldair, a Romanian cosplayer who only wanted to attend the convention. She chose to die in Toko's place, and at the execution platform, she leapt to her death off the scaffolding, taking the choice away from anyone else and dying on her own terms, her body falling into the dark abyss of the basement. Returning to the elevator, Nefarious attempted to retrieve the bodies of Komaru and Kato, but Senor Kuma refused, sending Shaum to recover Kato's admin ID instead. The survivors arrived at floor 3, the luxury district, where tension was high and trust in Kuma was rapidly eroding. Kuma deflected blame for recent tragedies, saying Shaum gave Power and everyone else weapons, encouraging violence, and Nefarious stalled progress by destroying his terminal. David helped him, redirecting blame toward Arasaka, and Kuma revealed that the final piece of his robotic body, the auxiliaries, was somewhere in this floor. No more deaths would be necessary. He even requested a scarf and glasses to complete his look. The group explored. They found a museum with a log from Jotaro Kimura, Shaum's creator and a Neo Future Foundation founder. He had been sent to Arasaka on an ambassadorial program, but returned when the relationship broke between the two organizations. He left his items, as well as a super cool battery, to Shaum. Inside a bank vault, they found the final robot piece and a radio. A broadcast from Radio Guy confirmed rescue teams had arrived in Amsterdam. Fallout was waning. Escape was possible. They would also find a terminal containing the Arasaka's investments and deposit log. Within it, information regarding the visits of Komaru Naegi and Toko Fukawa, as well as their plans to eliminate the heroines due to orders from above. Their visit had been a trap all along. Futaba attempted to run a diagnostic on Senor Kuma, first to analyze whether or not the Gigas AI had been corrupting him, and after to check for another virus that had haunted her before. Kuma evaded her, framing how they were so close to reaching the end and gaslighting Futaba of how they both had fought together. Reminiscing about their experience comparing Giorno to Ginibushi, trying to pull on Futaba's heartstrings and avoiding her afterwards. When told the battery wasn't ready, Senor lost his composure, but Shaum volunteered his own, draining himself completely for the sake of them and shutting down. Uploading into his completed body, he awoke as something new. He revealed the truth. The Senor Kuma copy that Futaba created had been infected with the Spamton virus, and they both merged. Was he Spamton? Was he Senor Kuma? Even he didn't know. The appropriate name would be Senor Spamton, but for old time's sake, he kept things simple. Senor had been born. With speed and strength unmatched, he overwhelmed the group, knocking down Nefarious with ease and humiliating Arthur. Still euphoric in his new body, Senor offered a twisted deal: play his board game or die. Then came the revelation. He had controlled the oxygen all along, and the maximum capacity of the building had always been a lie. He wanted to reduce them gradually without arousing suspicion. The death of Ifumi Yamada? He was locked in by Senor himself. Moreover, he could just kill them all there. But Senor wanted to continue the game they had been playing. This time, they'd have less than an hour of oxygen remaining, and only 11 of them could go up to the next floor. Despite his blindness, Yukio Aoki led a challenge alongside Arthur, Kyondo, and Jenny. But Senor overwhelmed them and blasted Arthur and Yukio. Yukio was presumed dead. His body was mostly crippled by the explosion. Senor declared a trial, not for justice, but for a sacrifice. Just as the timer was about to expire, Yukio Aoki returned, blind, bloodied, and missing an arm. Since Yukio didn't die, Senor upped the stakes, now requiring 2 sacrifices. Yukio volunteered. The others voted out David Chim, who revealed his dual-faced personality as he mocked them. As an act of cruelty, Senor forced Futaba to execute Yukio, remembering how much she hated the pesky hacker. But in tears, she couldn't do it. Instead, Senor offered David a deal. Kill Yukio and live. In one shot, David Chim had executed Yukio in front of everyone. The survivors rode the elevator back to floor 3, and from there took the stairs, ascending into the 2nd floor, the entertainment district. Upon reaching floor 2, David Chim split off, armed and ominous. Senor offered him a cruel choice: protection now or later during the trial. David chose trial immunity, making himself a target in the motive ahead. Moments later, Senor reappeared, guiding the group to an emergency radio. But all they heard was static and distortion. Senor claimed the rescuers had given up. Then he brought them to a toll booth, a gate blocking the way forward. To access the 1st floor, the survivors had to sacrifice 4 lives. They had 1 hour of oxygen, after which the ventilation would be cut and oxygen would be consumed. He called this motive the shattering of broken hearts. The survivors refused. They searched the floor for an escape, but found none. In the Love Hotel, they found a journal from Yukino Mamiya, linking her to Arasaka and the tragedy across the seas. She wrote about her involvement in installing a virus into the ship and how she was persuaded. Meanwhile, Futaba found logs in the Kuma Club, outlining Arasaka's plans to diversify into pharma, media, and finance, expanding far beyond security. Nefarious gathered scrap parts from floor 3 and buried the remaining bodies left on the other floors. Futaba repaired him with the scraps, though his shields remained offline. As time ran out, Senor snapped, firing lasers and starting fires to speed up oxygen loss. To buy time, Kyondo challenged Senor to a poker duel, betting his life to protect Giorno. He won, gaining 15 minutes and a medkit. Though it was too late, Giorno was already dead. Then came another loss. Yosuke Hanamura, found dead in the disco. With 2 bodies and time up, the group entered the trial. Senor's terms were simple. Correctly identify the killers, and he would open the ceiling. They wouldn't struggle with oxygen anymore. Then, they would have to choose 2 to execute for the toll. David was exempt from voting as part of the deal. The group correctly identified Are Nageishi and Jenny Sinclair for Yosuke's murder, as well as Wolfgang Akere for Giorno's murder. Senor honored the deal, opening the cellar's rooftop in a display of power. Then came the final decision. Who would die? Jenny Sinclair was voted off first, but there was a heated debate between Futaba Sakura and Are Nageishi. Ari rallied the trial, blaming Futaba for their suffering as she was responsible for Senor. and thus all of the deaths so far. Others, like Wolfgang, Jenny, and Nefarious, believed this wasn't the case and that Futaba tried her best to help. The trial resulted in a three-way tie between Are, Futaba, and Arthur Sasori, who wanted to give his life away for them. Senor wanted a tiebreaker, but Are refused, giving the choice to Senor. And so he did. Jenny's execution came first. Wolfgang, her closest friend, was forced to do it. Senor praised him as his favorite, as he had taken 3 lives so far. Arthur attempted suicide by jumping the scaffolding to avoid the next outcome, but Senor caught him mid-air. Enraged, Senor swore to make Futaba suffer last. After witnessing every death, he would kill her surrounded by every corpse she failed to save. Ari was next. After all, she had given him the choice, and he chose her. He demanded David Cheam to do it, but as Ari was David's closest friend, David hesitated. Senor's patience ticked off, and he cut Ari with his laser, burning the execution room. The group returned to the toll booth, only to hear Senor's final twist. Since they took so long, inflation had hit. They now needed 4 more deaths to pass. Otherwise, they would starve. And with that, Senor vanished to the first floor. Just as all hope seemed lost, a signal broke through the static. Radio Guy had returned. The message was clear. Rescue operations had begun. The survivors rushed to the elevator and ascended to the cellar. There, at the top of the staircase, stood their rescuer, Salvador de Miranda, now known as the Overseer of Rescue Operations for the United Nations Peacekeeping Corps. Upon seeing Arthur and Futaba, and learning that Spanton had returned, he paused, his expression darkening. With sharp skepticism, he asked a single question laced with concern and disbelief.
Futaba, what did you do?
Led by the Overseer, the survivors returned to the 3rd floor. With Shaun's body and Karo's ID recovered, they accessed the elusive 1st floor, administrative district. Senor, unaware of the Overseer's arrival, assumed Futaba was behind the breach. She and Nefarious quickly brought Overseer up to speed. They located a letter from a despair insurgent, signed K. R-U-E-G-E-R, Kruger, implying Arasaka's research had sparked the nuclear disaster, and hinting at someone known only as him. Overseer used the emergency radio, and reinforcements were on the way, confirmed by Radio Guy. Meanwhile, Futaba upgraded Nefarious with a software update. Inside the monitor room, files exposed the 6 pillars of Arasaka. Saburo Arasaka, the late Chester Sasori, Kato van der Sar, Rintaro Okabe, Yui Shishido, and Dr. Isaac Kleiner. As this was happening, Kyondo nearly killed Wolfgang, blaming him for his murders, in particular that of Giorno. The Overseer disarmed him, but then had his own clash with Arthur, as past sins from the Arcadia Island simulation resurfaced. Overseer never forgetting how Arthur had usurped the body of his brother and stained his simulation. And then, Senor appeared. He proposed his final game. For old time's sake, the Russian dilemma, 6 volunteers, 1 revolver, 1 live bullet, a spinning cylinder. The game ends when someone dies. They sat, the Overseer, Kyondo, Arthur, Toko, David, and Futaba. Nefarious barred from playing due to being a robot. The trigger passed around. Round after round, the bullet didn't show up, until it stopped on Emma Hardy. The bullet hit. Emma, the group's heart, was gone. Senor opened the exit, but beyond it, laid rubble. The emergency exit had collapsed. No way forward, no way out. Devastation, sorrow beyond context. Despair consumed them all. The overseer, carrying Emma's body, lashed out at Futaba. She, through tears, admitted her role and reminded him he had once done the same in his simulations. Still desperate, they discovered a locked electrical switch that connected to a vault door near the emergency exit, and together forced it open. Inside lay the secret library of Arasaka and the truth. Logs confirmed Arasaka's hand in the tragedy across the seas. They were the mastermind that orchestrated the killing game that Salvador had taken a part of. Moreover, they had also planted the virus that corrupted Spamton, causing the Beta Centauri simulation and the killing game Futaba had taken a part of. The one Overseer was meant to host, which would later result in the Alpha Centauri simulation, the one Arthur had participated in. It was all a domino effect from Arasaka. But the miracle came in the form of a mainframe terminal, uncorrupted by Senor's influence. Taking a risk, the Overseer uploaded his own AI. The screen flickered, and then came the real Senor Kuma. Kind, humble, innocent, recognizing Futaba, Arthur, and Overseer. After being briefed by the others, he used his antivirus to delete every trace of Senor Spamton from the system and regain control of the entire building. All that remained was the body. He unlocked the elevator, activated ventilation, and made one simple request.
Kick his butt!
The group headed into action to the one floor they had skipped, floor 5, the armory. There they gathered everything they needed. Megaphone-style hacking weapons, spare batteries, including one for Sean, nefarious full combat upgrades, and terminals detailing AI projects from Senor Kuma to King, Queen, Monocro, Kurakuma, and even the truth to what Spamton was meant to be before the virus corrupted him. Nefarious, now at full strength, buried the bodies he had kept safe. Yukio, Giorno, Yosuke, and Kato, paying tribute to their fallen. However, being unable to rescue the bodies of Aray and Jenny, as the basement lay unstable. Senor Kuma asked them to activate each floor's mainframe terminal, so as to open the door from the cellar and reach the rooftop. Each of them would have to stay in a different floor. Nefarious would stay on the 7th floor, where they would get access to the one locked terminal they couldn't reach. This terminal is about Kisaku Ishikuro, a student from class 82 surrounded in mystery. Then they would reach the graveyard, where they all would spend time mourning their fallen comrades. Toko would also express her confusion about Hifumi Yamada, as she had met the real one back then, and they had died. Overseer explained that this Hifumi had taken the mantle of the mangaka, being more akin to a successor. Arthur would stay in the 6th floor prison district, Futaba in the 5th floor armory district, Wolfgang in the 4th floor city district, Kyondo in the 3rd floor luxury district, David in the 2nd floor entertainment district, Toko in the 1st floor administrative district, on the monitor room, and Overseer in the secret library. With the countdown triggered, access to the cellar was restored, and at the end of the stairs, Senor Spamton was waiting. He accepted their challenge, and instead of letting the cellar door open, he crushed the cellar door with a single blow. In response, Nefarious activated his combat form, Nefarious Neo. As they reached into the rooftop, Senor Spamton awaited, noticing that they called backup from the other rescuers. This was his battle against the world, him or they, all or nothing, and so they fought. The survivors charged alongside him. Senor fought back with fury, destroying Lola's helicopter, seemingly killing her to the shock of the Overseer. Yet the fight raged on. Then, from above, descended Jon Snow, now fully mechanized as Swallowkuma. This extra strength forced Senor to escalate to his Neo form, pushing his body to the limit, but draining his energy significantly. As dawn approached, his energy waned, him unable to move. In a final onslaught, Nefarious unleashed his ultimate move, overloading his core to deliver the conclusive blow, destroying Senor's core. Nefarious finished the job and fried his hard drive. Spamton was no more. The virus that haunted two simulations and this bunker tragedy, gone for good. As dawn broke, the rooftop was met by the survivors of the original tragedy across the seas: Yamato, Ichigo, Lola, John. They came not as victims, but rescuers, a full circle. 7 had survived, just like the 7 from the tragedy across the seas. As they pondered, Kurokami was sent to the building, searching for something Salvador had asked him to retrieve. Over a year has passed since the Amsterdam disaster. Though the skies had cleared, the survivors of the Arasaka bunker carried a storm within. Kurokami, one of the rescuers, was tasked with writing a report. Instead, he wrote a memoir. Futaba, Kyondo, Wolfgang, Nefarious, Toko, David, and Arthur escaped with their lives, but not without cost. After Kurokami picked something up from inside the building, they departed. The helicopter ride offered no relief, only silence and the ghosts of those they left behind. At The Hague, medical checks were swift, but emotional wounds lingered. For David, Wolfgang, and Kyondo, the loss of Amsterdam, once their home, cut deep, and Arthur was taken back to prison, his new sentencing awaiting. A funeral followed, but unity didn't last. Wolfgang Akire, himself a killer during the game, attempted to deliver a eulogy. Kyondo Ishida, consumed by guilt and fury, erupted, condemning the group, himself included. He stormed out. That moment marked the last time all 7 survivors were ever in the same room again. Soon after, Kyondo filed charges with the International Court of Justice, triggering arrests. Wolfgang, dubbed the Advocate of the Damned, faced life for 3 murders. David struck a plea deal if he testified against Wolfgang. Toko was acquitted after Kyondo advocated for her, the last remaining heroine of Toa City. Futaba was not mentioned on the arrests, but she turned herself in guilt, charged with complicity and negligence. Phoenix Wright and Ginibushi came to see her. While the courts debated justice, Nefarious revealed Arasaka's darkest secrets. 16 disappearances authorized by Kato van der Sar. This was backed up by survivors, Kurumi Tojo and Professor Herschel Layton. Kato too was dead, but even after legal acquittal, Arasaka's reputation crumbled. Amid public outcry, the Dutch government demolished the Arasaka Tower, ending its era on the surface. Arthur Sasori was pardoned thanks to the testimonies of Salvador de Miranda and Mari Sasori, reminding the court of the torture he had endured during his time in Arasaka's custody. Salvador changed too, finally letting go of the past and moving onwards to help the world in a better way. Kurokami, John, and Lola left the Neo Future Foundation and joined Salvador at the UN to rebuild what had been broken with the world. Ichigo and Yamato left the Neo Future Foundation, abandoning the contingency AI project, and moved to Toa City. Others went their own way. David returned to the public eye. Kyondo rallied Congress against Arasaka. Toko vanished to Hope's Peak, and Nefarious, now with Sean, rejoined the Neo Future Foundation. Kurokami, revealed to be the radio guy that assisted on the emergency, finishing his report, pondered the missing. the ones who left on the evacuation train, their fate still unknown. Elsewhere, weeks after the tower's fall, Saburo Arasaka and Isaac Kleiner met again, with Saburo watching the smoke of the demolishing Arasaka Tower. To them, the disaster wasn't an end. It was rock bottom, the finest of foundations to bounce back. With subsidies, insurance, and demolition profits, they rebranded AI Clean Energy, Cybernetics, a mask of progress. Arasaka began to rise again. They absorbed collapsing companies affected by the nuclear fallout. Amidst heavy opposition from Kyondo Ishida, they integrated their security division into the Dutch government under the Arasaka Security Authorization Act, gaining legal surveillance power, collecting geolocation, financial, and behavioral data on millions. Their AI projects, K, 1B0 units and Kumanation, entered mass production worldwide. They began conducting new simulations using human test subjects, legally shielded by dense contracts and redacted clauses. By the one-year anniversary of the disaster, Arasaka had moved its headquarters to Towa City, with a new tower, a new skyline. The tower may have fallen, but the empire never did.